A millionaire who has to decide whether to give up his fortune to save a child that isn't even his. No, I don't see how any of the topics here could be relevant today.
それだけだ。
どこまで行くんだ。
乗ればわかるよ、近藤さん。
You're just here for the answer to the question, just what is this film that Denzel and Spike Lee have been remaking, and just how good is it? Well, the answer is it's a moral quandary that drives headfirst into a police procedural, which basically shaped that entire genre as we know it today, and if I had to describe it in modern terms, I would have to call it a true crime documentary meets Parasite. And it is very, very good. High and Low stars just an overwhelming mass of Japanese men. I mean, there is so much cast in this film, just huge rooms full of policemen and whole groups of Japanese male executives at women's shoes companies. That's a weird sentence. Yeah, this was made by the same guy who made Seven Samurai, right? Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so this stars Toshiromifune, and that's how you know it's an Akira Kurosawa film, because he's in all of them. And he is fantastic. He is this radiating presence of the noble businessman, which doesn't really exist, but we're going to ignore that. And he's just trying to take over the company, the women's shoe company, that one, that he works at, out from under the people who would make, you know, cheap production costs and shitty shoes so that they can make more money. And he's kind of never really given credit for wanting to do the right thing there, but it doesn't matter. So his son gets kidnapped, and he is all like, oh shit, and then his son wanders in the door, and he's like, wait, and then he figures out that it's his driver's son has been kidnapped accidentally, and he has to decide whether he's still going to pay the huge ransom, which would basically bankrupt him by making him not able to pay off the people who he was going to buy the company from. So what does he do? It's a moral quandary, and the first hour of this film basically is just it's like a play. It's all set in his living room as he goes from meeting with executives and fighting with them, to explaining his plan, to figuring out what's been going on, dealing with the kidnapper and the police and trying to work out what he's going to do. And then it moves, completely shifts after that into this police procedural, where they very delicately, like extreme detail, go into all of the evidence they have. They lay it out. And there was an entire, like, half hour, basically, where they're just laying out evidence, figuring out little new pieces of evidence, little bits, not really getting anywhere with the investigation. And yet I was sitting on the edge of my seat going, oh my god, this is incredible. And I still don't know why or how they did that. This is a fascinating look at so many things. This film, it's not afraid to evolve. It has that long opening sequence, which is just the whole first hour, and then there's this like 15-20 minute sequence on a train where they're dealing with giving the ransom money over, and that was incredibly like Hitchcockian to me, and I loved it. And then it moves straight into this police procedural, and that is because it feels like a slow burn investigative film from there on, and yet it's not slow. It's never slow. The first hour you would think should be slower, and it's not. And then after that you would think, oh, they're just listing evidence, they're just talking about what they know and trying to figure it out, and like there's not like a huge amount of mystery to it or anything, but it keeps surprising you. It keeps evolving and doing new things and never jumping. I mean, it does jump from being this like ransom film, Hitchcockian play, to this police procedural halfway through, but it never completely shifts in tone. It never changes what it is saying or doing, and yet all of the little shifts in the case really feel like these seismic, like, oh my goodness moments, and there are several of them that just have you going like, oh, wow, I really didn't think it was going to go there, and that is where it's genius, because I had expectations going in, but they've been blown away. It's even better than I thought it was going to be. This has inspired everybody, and you can tell. From the simplicities of the story progression to the ways that it is clearly the blueprint for every crime TV show, that it is just nuts. I love the way that this evolves without ever having to take any sort of seismic shifts or deviating in any insane ways. It does these little fascinating twists and turns in the case without having to do the kind of things you would have to do modern day to really shock people, I think. And yet, this managed to shock me watching it for the first time now, having seen so much crime in TV and film. And I love that about this. It is a film that I really started out saying, yeah, this will probably be good. And by the end, I was forced to admit to myself that I think it's better than Seven Samurai, which I really didn't see coming, no. I love the dialogue-heavy style of the first half. I love that kind of Hitchcockian style, that kind of 1940s thing that it had going on there, and it really felt like that. And I mean, the 40s probably didn't come to Japan until the 60s, so it makes sense. But then it evolves into a genre that is not normally my favourite. You know, this kind of David Fincher-esque sort of police investigation, slow-burn crime thriller. That's not my favorite genre at all, and it really immediately has become one of my favorites in that genre, without a doubt. It's insanely good, and I'm giving Were You Really So Unfortunate 5 stars. And, like, you know in your head that Kurosawa films are meant to be, like, the top tier of anything ever, basically, but it's not until you watch some that you're like, oh. But they are. Yeah, they absolutely are. You really just gotta wade through some of these. And I mean, that's only the second one I've seen. I got work to do, but damn, son.